Hi guys, welcome to today's video. This is going to be a time lapse of sorts showing the setup of a mini aquascape in this 8 litre jar from TK Maxx. So the first step is just getting a good nutrient base layer with Tropica Aquasoil and Tetra complete substrate. So I'm also adding some Easy Life root tabs. These are probably the most budget option fertilizer you can get. Sometimes they don't fully dissolve, but you know, I'm being cheap, so it is what it is. Next is capping the Tropica substrate with some Tetra complete substrate, which also acts as a base layer. On top of that, I put silver sand and a white pebble, as well as some little detailed stones and gravel, just to give that natural element, or to attempt to. So most of these plants were from some guy down the road who closed down his tank, and they weren't in the best of condition. Some of them were sitting on the windowsill for quite some time as well, and they'd been growing funny, some had died, so they needed a bit of work before putting in the vase themselves. In this aquascaping set, you get 2 pairs of scissors, one curved, one straight, as well as some tweezers, and a little aquascaping tool to move around soil. I got this set from Amazon, and I think for what it was amazing. I mean, some of the price tags on aquascaping stuff is insane if you ask me, but this was just a tenner for the whole set, and that's how not to use the tweezers. But at least they allowed me to get into the vase and sort of rearrange things without knocking everything with my hand, which I do later anyway. But the tweezers were very handy to have, as you can see. So when you're releasing the plants after putting them into the substrate with these tweezers, if you just sort of gradually loosen your squeeze, but then also squeeze again and loosen as you're going out of the substrate, that tends to leave the root in the substrate and the plant doesn't follow you up with the tweezers, but that can sometimes happen as well. When doing this, it's best to do it in a quick motion. I hope this makes sense and helps some people. So some of these plants I don't actually know what they are, hence the captions. I think that was Hygrophila compact. I actually put that to the side and decided to plant that later on. This is Hygrophila polysperma, and this plant grows like a weed. It's just a fantastic plant that takes out nutrients from the water, such as nitrate, which is obviously a great thing for any livestock that you have in the water. This limnophila, or suspected limnophila, is another fast grower. If anyone knows exactly what plant it is, please let me know in the comments. So with these red plants, they all tend to require a bit more light than green plants in general, and they can be slower growers. So I'm taking a chance by planting them near the Amazon sword, to be honest. But we'll see what wins out. After some time, because this is such a small ecosystem, I expect only a couple of plants to sort of be thriving. But initially, this will be an interesting process of watching this grow, or at least I hope it will be. So to avoid completely destroying what I've done so far, I put in some bubble wrap. This just stops the water from splashing into the substrate and disturbing everything, for the most part anyway. Apologies for my voice, by the way. I went to a festival 2 weeks ago and I'm still getting over festival flu. So these tweezers have a rounded end, so they're also useful just to flick plants around without damaging them, or mostly not damaging them, and getting rid of that detritus and just broken bits of plants that were floating around in the vase, as well as repositioning some plants like this. That's some Ludwigia repens, I believe. I have unfortunately disturbed the Aquasoil and brought it to the surface here. I did it quite badly there. That would be a lot worse if I was using my hand, I think. However, I can always siphon out some of that Aquasoil or just put on more sand over the top, which is what I end up doing for the most part. So the Liliopsis brasiliensis, completely butchering that pronunciation I'm sure, is a 4-gram plant that sends out runners. This, I'm not sure if it was Hygrophila siamensis. Please let me know. The larger leaves on this Ludwigia were grown from its emerged form. so they'll be replaced with smaller leaves in the aquatic form. So I really am trying to use every bit of plant that I got here. This is some Alternanthera Reinecke, I'm not sure again on the pronunciation. That tends to be a fairly easy growing plant in terms of pink reddish plants in my experience. So I'm just trying to plant as much of the available space as possible. The more plants in this vase, the quicker the ecosystem will get up and going, and the more stable the water quality will be. With more plants, more nutrients are uptaken, more space is taken, and the theory being is that outcompetes with the algae and you get healthy plant growth and good quality water. So I chose to plant the Hygrophila compact at the back in the end, just so it doesn't shadow any other plants, or doesn't shadow them too much, I should say. And I'm just capping that Tropica Aquasoil with more sand as I go along and make a mess. And I'm just trying to clear the bubbles off the side of the vase here, clear up any detritus, make sure there's not too much organic matter to decompose. If there's too much organic matter, you're going to have too many nutrients in the water and it's going to cause algae issues from the off. So I let it settle here a bit before deciding on what to do next. I removed some of the Ludwigia that I put in just because there was a load of red already featured. Red is sometimes overpowering, especially if you've got too much, which I arguably still do. But I do love Ludwigia. It's one of my favourite plants. As you can see, there's still quite a lot of detritus and mold, and over the initial days I'll be siphoning out most of the water as well as any dying or decaying leaves and replacing it with fresh, just so that the nutrients in the water don't build up and cause issues. I think it's interesting to play around with light placement a bit, because depending on where the light's positioned, you can either create or remove depth and obviously expose different elements. With a little vase like this, there's not that much you can do, but I still found it interesting. Here I'm just putting on a little mini external filter, and to my surprise actually had a decent flow rate and helped to clear the vase. So again, I'll put a link in the description for that. It ran off a little USB-A connector. Unfortunately the cable wasn't too long, but I did get it sorted. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I'll do an update on this vase soon. Feel free to drop a like and subscribe, or don't.